For this fly, I'm using a size 16 Daiichi 1160, but any Klinkhammer style hook will do. These hook shapes have an exaggerated bend that's designed to sit below the surface of the water and have some sort of abdomen tied onto that section, while the thorax and head should sit above the surface. I'm tying a pattern in a Light Cahill coloration, so I'll start with cream thread. You'll notice I place my hooks with the bend facing up rather than horizontally so that I can tie in the tail and body wraps nicely. For the tail, I stripped a few fibers from a large ginger hackle feather. Tie these in so they're about the length of the body. Start with fibers on the side of the hook facing you so that your thread wraps pull the fibers up to the top of the hook shank. For the abdomen, take a turkey Biot feather and tie it in with the clear side facing the front of the fly. This will give the fly bumpy segments along the abdomen. After securing the Biot with a few wraps, reposition the hook so that the flat shank is horizontal and work your thread to the eye of the hook. Take hackle pliers and grab the Biot. Then, carefully take touching wraps so that each new bump lines up with even spacing all along the bend of the hook. End 2 to 3 eye lengths behind the eye of the hook and take wraps to secure the Biot. Snip the excess and smooth out the area with more thread wraps. End with your thread about an eye length behind the eye. Grab 20 or so deer hair fibers, brush out any fuzz, and stack them in a small hair stacker. Keep them lined and measure out about a hook shank length for the post. Take several pinch wraps and secure the deer hair. Maintain your grip as you secure the hair so that they don't spin down around the shank of the hook. Once they're secure, pull the hairs upright and take wraps in front of the hair and form a thread dam to prop up the deer hair post. Separate the thin hair from the thick ends and clip the waist at an angle. This angle will help shape a nice tapered thorax. Take wraps around the waist and in front of the deer hair to form a smooth base. This next step is probably the trickiest part of the fly. Take thread wraps around the deer hair starting at the base. Try to form a really rigid base, as a floppy post will make hackle wraps very difficult. Take your time and move up and down the deer hair post with even tension on your wraps until you have about 3 millimeters of wrapped post. I noticed during my tie that the deer hair was flopping a bit to one side, so I took some thread wraps on that side to make a sturdier foundation. Try to maintain steady thread tension and have a consistent amount of thread feeding out from your bobbin to the fly. You can use your pinky to apply more or less pressure to the spool, or adjust the tension on the spool shaft if your bobbin allows. At this point, you should actually tie in your hackle, but I forgot and started building up the dubbing thorax. I'm gonna have to undo some of this so that I can properly tie in my hackle. Prep your hackle by stripping off about a centimeter of fibers, and with the shiny side of the feather facing you, also strip off about an inch of fibers from the right side of the feather. This will help make clean wraps with the stem of the feather butting up against the post. As you tie in the hackle, keep the stem side against the post as much as possible, and take wraps up and down around both the post and the hackle stem. Then end with your tying thread at the base of the post. So this is when you should really make the dubbed thorax, but I have half of it finished here. Dub on a thin noodle and take wraps behind and in front of the post, and end with your thread at the base of the post, not behind the eye of the hook. The next part is also a contender for the trickiest step. Take your hackle and bend the stem right where you want it to start making turns, sort of like a break. This will help coax the feathers in the right direction as you take wraps. Some people like to reposition the fly for these wraps so that they're taking vertical turns around the post rather than horizontal turns. In either case, take touching wraps, making sure that the stem side is against the post, the shiny side of the feather is facing up, and the fibers are radiating out from the post. Take your time, and don't sweat it if you have to redo some wraps or the hackle slides off the post because you pulled a little too hard in one direction. Once your hackle is at the base of the post, take your thread and take one turn under all the hackle fibers except the part you're holding onto, and then another turn under all the hackle fibers including the part you're holding onto, so that you sandwich the waist end of the hackle with wraps above and below. Take several whip finishes around the post, trying your best to avoid catching any hackle fibers. Finally, clip the excess hackle and your thread, and that's it. If there are any straggler hairs, you can trim them at this point. Alrighty, this one has a few tricky steps, but I've had success fishing emerger patterns like this one. Give it a shot and let me know what you think in the comments.